Hello and good evening, friends, and welcome to this very special edition of Talking Wrestling TXN. It is our 2023 Year in Review special. My name is Anthony Florio, and I am sitting in tonight for good old MF Michael Fletcher. MF will not be joining us this evening due to work commitments beyond his control, so he has asked me to fill in as host tonight. Of course, I gladly accept it, as always. So, MF, don't worry about it. Show's in good hands. We got you. I am joined tonight by the phenom Michael Bullock, and if you're new to our year in review specials, what we very simply do is we go over, we relive our favorite moments in the world of professional wrestling in the calendar year. We're also going to be handing out our year-end awards as well, and we got a busy show tonight. We're also going to be previewing the AEW World's End pay-per-view that takes place this Saturday night from the Nassau Coliseum in Long Island, New York. And in our main event, we'll be previewing the final Thursday night football game of this season as the New York Jets will square off against the Cleveland Browns. We'll get into that at the end. But for right now, let's start it off with our year in review. 2023, without question, was one of the greatest and most exciting years in the history of professional wrestling. So much excitement, a lot of Shakespearean drama, and big years for the likes of WWE. Perhaps the most successful year in WWE history. AEW had some ups and downs, but they had a great year as well. Impact Wrestling had a great year. Ring of Honor had a solid year, and New Japan and AAA and the whole nine. But in the world of WWE, of course, it all started with the Royal Rumble, which emanated from the Alamo Dome in San Antonio, Texas. Cody Rhodes winning the men's Royal Rumble match that put him one step closer to finishing his story. And he did that despite the record-setting performance by Gunther. Gunther entered that Rumble at number 1 and went all the way until the end before he was eliminated by Cody Rhodes at the end. Gunther setting a Rumble record by going over 1 hour and 11 minutes in that match. And of course, the women's Royal Rumble match, Rhea Ripley. She set a record of her own, lasting well over an hour, about an hour and a minute. And for the first time ever, the first two women in that match, which were Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan, they were the final two. And Rhea Ripley went on to win that as well. And let's just say that ended up starting what ended up being the greatest year and the most successful year of Rhea Ripley's entire career. Those were the only other real highlight other than the Rumble matches itself. The undercard was, if I'm going to be honest with you. But it was only 3 highlights from that show. Cody winning the men's Rumble, Rhea winning the women's Rumble, and what happened in the main event. Yes, Roman Reigns successfully defended against Kevin Owens, but it was what happened after the match that got all of us talking. Sami Zayn finally turned on the bloodline, and that's what started the whole Sami and Kevin movement, and then it led into the Elimination Chamber, Montreal, Quebec, Canada. Sami Zayn's hometown, Heroes Welcome. They did SmackDown there the night before, and those 2 nights had to be the most emotional of Sami Zayn's entire career, being in front of his family and his friends, and the overwhelming ovation that he got on both nights. When he challenged Roman Reigns in the biggest match of his entire career for the Undisputed Universal Championship. Yes, he lost, but still, that it had to be a moment for Sami Zayn. And the men's Elimination Chamber match, which was an amazing match. It was to determine the United States heavyweight championship. Of course, Montez Ford had a standout performance in that, and the women's chamber, Asuka won, and that set her up for a Raw women's title match with Bianca Belair at WrestleMania. And of course, AEW got into the action there in the month of March. They had their first pay-per-view of the year, Revolution, and it featured perhaps the greatest Iron Man match in history. MJF defending the AEW World Heavyweight Championship against Bryan Danielson. Man, what an Iron Man match. It ended in a tie, but then it went to the overtime, a la Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels, and MJF escaped with the AEW World Heavyweight Championship. Clearly the highlight of that show. And then we had the month of April and WrestleMania. WrestleMania 39 at SoFi Stadium in Inglewood, the home of the Chargers and the Rams. And night one, if that had been WrestleMania alone, you could have made an argument for that to be the greatest WrestleMania of all time. So many incredible matches and moments. Of course, we witnessed on that night the greatest women's match in WrestleMania history. Rhea Ripley and Charlotte Flair for the SmackDown Women's Championship. Rhea Ripley winning it, getting her revenge on Charlotte from 3 years earlier at NXT, when Charlotte took the NXT Women's title from her in the Performance Center. And it also saw something that hadn't been done since the very first WrestleMania in 1985. The main event was a tag team match, but not just any tag team match. The undisputed WWE Tag Team Championships were the main event when the Usos put their record 622-day reign as champions on the line against Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. But the reign finally ended as Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens won the titles in front of over 80,000 fans at SoFi Stadium. They went into mass hysteria, and you couldn't blame them. A special moment for Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. No doubt the biggest wins of their WWE career. No question about that. And the emotion of that moment, wow. And then, of course, night two. Unfortunately, McDinkleberg, weaseled his way into this. A lot of questionable booking decisions, but we did end up getting what is now considered the greatest Intercontinental Heavyweight Championship match at WrestleMania. Gunther, Sheamus, Drew McIntyre in a triple threat match, and they tore the house down. And of course, it was Roman Reigns versus Cody Rhodes for the undisputed Universal Championship. And all of us and our mothers thought that Cody was going to finish the story. Yeah, about that. That did not happen. Cody was on the verge of finishing the story, but Paul Heyman distracted the referee, Solo Sikoa with an amniotic spike, and the rest was history. Roman Reigns successfully defending the undisputed Universal Championship. A lot of people were asking why. Why would you do this? That was the perfect night for Roman to finally drop the titles. Explanation that we were given was that Cody hadn't been through enough adversity. And at that moment, it was true. He didn't really go through much adversity. But since then, Cody has gone through an enormous amount of adversity. And that adversity really started the next night on Raw, which, yes, it ended up being the worst Monday Night Raw of the year by a mile, all because McDinkleberg and McMagma was all over this nonsense. It was when Brock Lesnar attacked Cody Rhodes. It was supposed to be Brock Lesnar and Cody Rhodes against Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa in that night's main event. But Brock Lesnar turned on Cody Rhodes. And that set up the trilogy of matches, which we'll get into in a bit. Also in the month of April, Impact Wrestling presented their Rebellion pay-per-view. And we were guaranteed a new Impact Wrestling World Heavyweight Champion after Josh Alexander had to relinquish the title due to injury. So it was Steve Macklin, who Alexander was supposed to defend the title against. Instead, it was Macklin versus Kushida. And at the end of the night, Steve Macklin walked away the new Impact World Heavyweight Champion. And then in the month of May, a lot of things happened in the month of May. A very busy Memorial Day weekend. But before we get into that, this is where the international pay-per-view series started. For the first time since New Year's Revolution in 2005, WWE held a pay-per-view in San Juan, Puerto Rico, at the Coliseo de Puerto Rico, which was headlined by one of the biggest stars in the music world today, maybe the biggest star on the men's side of things, Bad Bunny, when he squared off against Damian Priest in a San Juan street fight. And man, did they steal the show. Yes, it was Cody Rhodes versus Brock Lesnar, the first match of their trilogy, won by Cody Rhodes. He barely got by Brock Lesnar that night. But that crowd in Puerto Rico, man. Oh, that was a crowd. Let me tell you, that was a fun crowd. And then that led us into the Memorial Day weekend, of course. It started with Night of Champions in Saudi Arabia. Cody and Brock, the second match of the trilogy, Brock Lesnar winning that match. But it was also on that night that Seth freaking Rollins, became the World Heavyweight Champion. When the World Heavyweight Championship was reintroduced by Triple H a month prior in Chicago on a Monday Night Raw. A very unique tournament was held. And the final two were Seth freaking Rollins and the phenomenal AJ Styles. It was a Raw versus SmackDown match. And it was Monday Night Raw that won it. Seth freaking Rollins won the title. And he's been champion ever since. And he will be defending that title this Monday night as part of the first Raw of 2024. As he will be defending against Drew McIntyre. Of course, also on that same night, Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens successfully defended the Undisputed Tag Team Championships against Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa. And it was mainly because of the Usos. The next night, AEW held their annual Double or Nothing pay-per-view. And that was an amazing night as well. A great AEW Double or Nothing show. That went down. And it featured the four pillars of AEW: MJF, Darby Allin, Sammy Guevara, and at the time, Jungle Boy Jack Perry for the AEW World Heavyweight Championship. MJF successfully defending. So, but boy, howdy, that was an amazing match. One of the many highlights of that great show. And then we moved on into the month of June. And in the month of June, it featured yet another. Well, actually, no. We didn't have a WWE pay-per-view event that year. June had the only special moment really in June. Well, actually, there were a couple things. In the month of June, we had an Impact Plus special, Impact Wrestling Against All Odds. And it was on that night when a TNA original who had been there for almost 20 years finally had his breakthrough moment. Alex Shelley, of the one half of the Motor City Machine Guns, became the Impact Wrestling World Heavyweight Champion, winning the title from Steve Macklin on an Impact Plus special of all things. Imagine that. And he's been champion ever since. And he'll be defending the title at the Hard to Kill pay-per-view against the winner of the Call Your Shot Gauntlet, which ended up being Moose, a former champion in his own right, a David versus Goliath matchup. Nothing really to speak of in the month of June, if I'm going to be honest with you. And then in the month of July, we had the Money in the Bank pay-per-view, the final international pay-per-view. It emanated from the O2 Arena in London, England. And on that night, well, what can we say except Io Sky winning the women's Money in the Bank ladder match and Damian Priest winning the men's Money in the Bank ladder match. We all thought LA Knight was going to win. And he almost did. But Damian Priest ended up walking out with the briefcase. But it wasn't about that on that night. What really happened, the big talking point from that show was something that hadn't happened in 3+ years. Roman Reigns was pinned. And it was by his cousin Jey Uso as part of the Bloodline Civil War. The Usos versus Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa. Jey Uso pinned Roman Reigns. And we all thought, there's your moment of the year right there in 2023. Funny thing happened. We'll get into that later. And also in the month of July, we witnessed what many are calling the match of the year in professional wrestling in 2023. Well, one other thing that happened in the month of June, now that I think about it, the Forbidden Door pay-per-view. And from Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Headlined by Bryan Danielson versus Kazuchika Okada. And we also cannot forget about Kenny Omega versus Will Ospreay. Two of the many highlights of what was an amazing show. Definitely in the running for pay-per-view of the year. And also in the month of July, Impact Wrestling had their Slammiversary pay-per-view. And of course, also on that same night, AEW Collision, a 2 out of 3 falls match with FTR versus Jay White and Juice Robinson for the AEW World Tag Team Championship. And it went almost an hour. And in many people's eyes, it's the match of the year in 2023. And then from there, we moved in the month of August. SummerSlam. Ford Field, Detroit, Michigan. And Io Sky cashing in Money in the Bank, winning the WWE Women's Championship that had been rechristened a few months prior because of the draft. And Io Sky walked away with the title after Bianca Belair had won a triple threat match against Asuka and Charlotte Flair to win the title in her own right. But her reign only lasted a few moments. Io cashed in Money in the Bank, and that was the end of it. Io Sky walked away the new women's champion. It was also on that same night that Cody Rhodes and Brock Lesnar ended their trilogy, and Cody Rhodes ultimately won it. And then in a surprise moment after the match, Brock Lesnar paid respect and had a moment of sportsmanship for Cody Rhodes and gave him his endorsement. Moment right there. Special moment. LA Knight winning the SummerSlam Battle Royale. And of course, also on that same night, Roman Reigns and Jey Uso met in the first ever tribal combat match for the Undisputed Universal Championship and the title of Tribal Chief. Jey Uso was about to make history, but then Brother Jimmy turned his back on him. He screwed him out of the match and the titles. And then AEW made history by presenting a pay-per-view at the legendary Wembley Stadium in London, England. AEW All In. Headlined by MJF versus Adam Cole for the AEW World Heavyweight Championship. Chris Jericho went up against Will Ospreay. And Saraya, formerly known as Paige, winning the AEW Women's Championship in front of her family and her friends. And just an all-around amazing show. 81,000 plus fans jam-packing the Cathedral of Soccer for what in most people's eyes was considered the pay-per-view event of the year. You can certainly make an argument for it. September, we had a loaded Labor Day weekend. We had Payback. The Payback pay-per-view returned, and it was on that night where unfortunately the fairy tale championship run of Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens ended at the hands of the Judgment Day, Finn Balor and Damian Priest, with a little help from JD McDonough. Seth freaking Rollins over Shinsuke Nakamura. And We also saw John Cena referee a match with LA Knight and The Miz, and a whole lot more in Pittsburgh. Next night, AEW All Out in Chicago at the United Center. Jon Moxley winning the International Championship from Orange Cassidy. Bryan Danielson and Daniel Garcia. Or Bryan Danielson and an absolute Ricky Starks in an incredible match. Just some of the many highlights of that memorable show in Chicago. And then NXT, No Mercy, Ilya Dragunov becoming the NXT champion, defeating Carmelo Hayes. Carmelo Hayes had held the title since the Stand and Deliver event on WrestleMania weekend with a victory over Braun Breaker. He was him, no doubt about that. And that match was actually voted as NXT's match of the year for 2023. And you can certainly make an argument for that, no doubt. Big year for NXT as well. Yes, they still had their shows aren't perfect by any stretch, but still great. And then from there, in the month of October, we had the Fastlane pay-per-view where John Cena and LA Knight teamed up against Solo Sikoa and Jimmy Uso. Seth freaking Rollins and Shinsuke Nakamura in a last man standing match for the World Heavyweight Championship. And then we also had the first ever AEW Wrestle Dream pay-per-view in Seattle. That was a tribute to the late great Antonio Inoki. And Inoki-san would have been proud of that show. A lot of highlights on that show, too many to count. And then Impact Wrestling Bound for Glory. Alex Shelley doing the unthinkable, defeating Josh Alexander to retain the Impact World Heavyweight Championship. I'm still stunned about that one. I thought for sure the Walking Weapon was going to get his title back, but that didn't happen. And then from there, we also had, and then we moved on into the month of November. Full Gear. Julia Hart, in many people's eyes, one of the breakout stars of this year, winning the TBS Championship. MJF successfully defending the World Heavyweight Championship against Jay White. A great all-around night at the Kia Forum. Orange Cassidy getting his payback on Jon Moxley for the International Championship. And a whole lot. And, of course, the death match. The Texas death match. Hangman Adam Page and Swerve Strickland. Which you can certainly make an argument for match of the year if you wanted to. We wouldn't be mad at you for that. Because it deserves to be in the running. And then we had the Survivor Series. The return of War Games after the wildly successful event in Boston the year before. In Chicago. The War Games matches were incredible both ways. But that wasn't even the talking point. A moment we never thought we would ever see again. CM Punk returning to a WWE ring for the first time in nearly 10 years. Hell indeed froze over. And then this month, what we've seen, I mean, we got a lot of big things coming down the pipeline. We had the NXT Deadline event with the Iron Survivor challenges. Trick Williams on the men's side, Blair Davenport on the women's side, and Tuesday night they will battle for their respective championships. Trick Williams versus Ilya Dragunov for the NXT Championship. Blair Davenport challenging Lyra Valkyria for the women's championship. We'll have a review of that next week as part of our programming. And from there, we've also got coming up this Saturday, the World's End pay-per-view for AEW. And, of course, we also had SmackDown, tribute to the troops, on Michael Bullock's birthday at the Amica Mutual Pavilion here in Providence. And what a night. What a great time that was had by all of us. And CM Punk with an amazing promo. And, you know, first time ever tribute to the troops ended up being a live show. It was always a taped show. But we had a live show, and boy, howdy, was it a great show. So, an amazing year. especially for WWE, setting numerous records. They made so much money. I mean, the records that they set for almost every event. And of course, you thought this year was big. Next year is going to be even bigger. With several international pay-per-views on tap. The Elimination Chamber pay-per-view going to be in Australia in the month of February. Backlash pay-per-views going to Paris, France. You kidding me? Unbelievable. Of course, the 2 shows in Saudi Arabia, as always. And then, on top of that, you've also got, for the first time ever, this event in the month of August entitled Bash in Berlin. Berlin, Germany is getting a pay-per-view next year. Huge year. And of course, WrestleMania, Lincoln Financial Field in Philly. Of course, the Royal Rumble next month, a month from now at Tropicana Field with actual fans, no dinky Thunderdome this time. And AEW coming off the success of the Continental Classic tournament. Unbelievable. The finals are all set. We're going to get into that in a little while. And I don't know what else there is for me to say. And Impact Wrestling, big things coming their way. The return of TNA Wrestling in the new year, headlined by the TNA Hard to Kill pay-per-view on January 13. What a great time to be alive, and what a great time to be a wrestling fan. Those 3 companies alone, I mean, I'm expecting big things, bigger and better things, especially in WWE. After all the records they set this past year, don't be surprised if they end up setting more records next year. And you can attribute that to one man, Paul Triple H Levesque. He's a damn genius, man. That's all there is to it. So, I don't know what else there is for me to say here. So, Michael Bullock, I know that was a lot of things that I addressed, but those were the moments, the standout moments in professional wrestling that I felt needed to be addressed in the year of 2023. So 2023 in the world of professional wrestling, Bullock, what were your standout favorite moments of what was an amazing year in professional wrestling?
Well, like you said, 2023 was definitely a really good year for professional wrestling, especially in WWE. But yeah, AEW had some moments too. I mean, but yeah, I mean, it was up and down, but it was still really good, no doubt about it. I mean, for me, obviously, with the Royal Rumble, I mean, both men's and women's matches I thought were good. I mean, on the women's side with Rhea Ripley winning, and who'd have thunk at that time it would be a big win for her, because it would turn out to be a dominating year for Mommy. I mean, with what she got her payback from WrestleMania 36 when she lost to Charlotte Flair. But this time she took the SmackDown Women's title at the time from Charlotte Flair, and it ended up being, like I said, a dominant year for her, and she's still champion as we head into this new year. And oh, by the way, she will be defending that women's world title on the first Raw of 2024 against Ivy Nile. So we'll see if 2024 will be maybe the start of something good for her again. We'll have to wait and see. But Cody Rhodes, I mean, what a year he had. I mean, him winning the men's Royal Rumble, and we all thought he was going to finish the story. And he was close to doing it at WrestleMania on night 2. But Paul Heyman had the referee distracted, and Solo with the spike, and that pretty much ended that dream. And we all knew that McDinkleberg had his fingerprints on it. I mean, come on, Florio, there's no doubt about it. I mean, if Triple H was running it at the time, I think he would have strapped the gold on Cody Rhodes.
Absolutely.
But no, Mr. McDinkleberg had to say, "Hey, we're in the reality era, and I want Roman Reigns to still be the champion." Yeah, and then what happened the next night with what the worst Monday Night Raw of the year? I mean, and we were all thinking McMahon's back in control and things are going to start going uphill. I mean, not uphill, downhill. But in the end, things change, and now it's everything's looking upward for WWE. And yeah, they went international with their premium live events. I mean, with Backlash in Puerto Rico, you still had the Saudi Arabia events, Money in the Bank in London. I mean, man, I mean, WWE is really starting to take doing more of these international events, and I like it. I mean, yes, you still want to see a lot of them here in the U.S., but man, that you're starting to get that international flavor. And then, of course, I mean, they said the trilogy of matches with Brock Lesnar and Cody Rhodes. I mean, those were freaking awesome. And and then, of course, I mean, yeah, the return of War Games, which both really did deliver. But like you said, the talk of that after that Survivor Series wasn't about the War Games. Oh no, it was a moment that we all thought would never happen again. CM Punk returning to a WWE ring back in the WWE for the first time in 10 years. And we all had that shocked look on our face. We were like, I mean, come on, Florio. I mean, what would you have told me if I said 10 years ago CM Punk would ever return to WWE? What would you have told me?
No chance in hell.
Exactly, especially after the way things ended between the two of them. But I mean, how Triple H and Nick Khan pulled this off, I still don't. I don't know how they managed to pull this off. But good for WWE, but bad for AEW. And of course, you know the whole story with the incident with him and Jack Perry, so we don't need to rehash that. So, and of course, let's not forget what just happened. I mean, CM Punk had his first match in over 3,628 days at a live event in Madison Square Garden where he faced Dominic Mysterio. So, and of course, we'll see him in the men's Royal Rumble match. So yeah, I mean, a lot of really good things happening for WWE. I mean, look, AEW had some really good things too. I mean, another good uh, Double or Nothing event, but the ones that really stood out was that Forbidden Door, the All in London, so, and of course the Wrestle Dream event. I mean, so many so many things that happened in AEW. I mean, it's just so much for me to try to remember in the amount of time we have. But yeah, so what? I mean, I expect some good things from both companies in 2024, but we'll have to wait and see. So, with that being said, Florio, I think we need to start handing some awards here.
Indeed, we do. And that's exactly what we're going to do right now. Our year end awards, and let's start it off with our breakout star of the year. It can be a man, it can be a woman, um, whoever you felt was a breakout this year. And well, I'll be honest with you, I had one on each side. Last year, when it came to it, I thought Mike Bailey, Speedball Mike Bailey of Impact Wrestling, was the men's breakout wrestler of the year. And the female and overall breakout star of the year was Roxanne Perez. There was no doubt about that. Little tougher this year, if I'm going to be honest with you. But if I'm going to pick a breakout star of the year, Um, on the men's side, I gotta go with LA Knight. I mean, LA Knight, yeah, what a year he had. I mean, he didn't do much early, but then once the crowd started getting behind him, and he just took off. He was put in so many great high profile matches, and I got a feeling 2024 is going to be a big year for LA Knight. And on the other side of the coin, on the women's side, I got to go with Julia Hart from AEW. I mean, she had a big year. Became a part of the House of Black, won a title, won her first championship when she captured the TBS championship last month at the Full Gear pay-per-view. So I consider it a toss-up between LA Knight from WWE and Julia Hart from AEW. So those to me were LA Knight on the men's side, Julia Hart on the women's side when it comes to breakout star of the year. So, Michael Bullock, do you agree with me on that, or do you have somebody else in mind?
You know what? I got to agree with you, Florio. I mean, LA Knight. I mean, yeah, it was tough for him, but once the fans really started getting into him, that's when his stardom really took off like a rocket. And of course, everybody, including you and me, Florio, were so much into LA Knight. Yeah.
Yeah. So much so that I wore his gear to the to when we went to SmackDown. I wore his gear that night. You remember?
Yep, I remember that. And the crowd that night was just popped when he came out. So he was definitely a breakout star this year. But when it comes to the women's side, I gotta agree with you on Julia Hart. I mean, going into the year, we didn't know what to expect out of her, but of course, she joined the House of Black, and then of course they finally strapped her with the TBS championship when she defeated Chris Statlander. And now the first time when she had that chance to become the TBS champion, she lost. And at the time, Florio, you were very critical of it, but thanks to me and finding out some dirt sheets, there was a reason why they didn't have her win the title in the first place, because she got married.
Yeah, Shotty Lee Johnson. Yes.
Yeah, and then I could definitely understand why they didn't do it, because you didn't want to put the title on her and then have her go on this long break with her husband. I mean, that wouldn't have made any sense.
No.
So they waited till she got back, and then she finally had her moment. So, and now she's gonna hopefully close out 2023 with a win, because she's got a tough challenge ahead of her at World's End against a woman that really freaks you out, Florio.
Ooh, Abaddon. Eesh.
Yeah. So let's see if Julia Hart can close it. Let's see if she can close out 2023 with a bang. So I agree with you on what you on the breakout stars.
All right, Bullock, you'll be leading off on the next award. Moment of the year. Gee, I wonder what it could be. Gotta think about this.
I don't think we have to think really hard about this one. We just talked about this a few minutes ago.
Yes.
For me, and I know you're going to agree with me on this one, CM Punk returning to WWE at Survivor Series in Chicago.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, it was a moment that we all thought would never happen again. I mean, with the way WWE and CM Punk went their ways, it didn't end well. It did not end well. And I think it was a Monday Night Raw in 2014 where he had his last match. And then afterwards, that's when he walked out. And it was so bad. I was thinking, there's no way this man will ever come back to the company. And you heard so many people say, oh, it may happen. But I kept saying, there's no chance in hell of that happening with the way it ended. And then came Survivor Series, and just when the pay-per-view ended after the War Games match, and then we hear CM Punk's music. Now I'm sitting there like, you have got to be kidding me. I am not going to believe this until he actually does come out. And when he came out, I and everybody in the IWC and all around the wrestling world were shocked. And so much so, it set record numbers of views on social media. I mean, just by CM Punk returning, I mean, it's a moment that we all thought we would never see again, and it happened. And now he's got a chance to finish or start a story that he can finish up, because he's going to be in the men's Royal Rumble match. And I'm going to go on the record of saying this, Florio, and I've said this many times, and you agree with me. He's winning that men's Royal Rumble match, and I think he's going to be the man to dethrone Seth freaking Rollins at WrestleMania.
And what will be an early match of the year candidate for 2024?
Absolutely. So my moment of the year, CM Punk returning to WWE, that sent shockwaves all throughout the world.
I'm right there with you. I mean, if that didn't happen, I would have said Roman Reigns getting pinned by Jey Uso at Money in the Bank, because we never thought we'd ever see the day where Roman Reigns would be pinned. He was pinned for the first time in 3+ years, in over 3.5 years, since of all people, Baron Corbin did it at the 2019 TLC pay-per-view. But no, it was indeed CM Punk coming back to WWE, a moment we never thought we'd see again. And you couldn't have picked a better night and a better town to do it. Chicago. Survivor Series, it looked like, okay, we're going off the air. Amazing show. That happened. MF and I let out the biggest, Corey and Sean from Boy Meets World. And MF, you let out the biggest, what? Of all time, and I'll never forget it. And then he did the whole I'm done thing, which has become a staple over the last couple of years.
And the AEW marks were probably left like pissed.
Well, you can thank Jack Perry for that. So
yes, that's the thing the AEW marks need to. If you want to be upset about it, be upset at Jack Perry.
Yeah, because of that incident.
He's the one that he's the one that started all this this nonsense at Wembley,
which led to CM Punk getting terminated. Bryan Danielson was the head of that termination committee, that disciplinary committee. So, but nonetheless, here we are. Hell indeed froze over. CM Punk returning to the WWE for the first time in nearly 10 years at the Survivor Series. He had his first match last night in Madison Square Garden, defeating Dominic Mysterio. And yes, he has entered into the men's Royal Rumble match. And there's no question about it. Yes, Cody Rhodes is in it too. But you got to imagine CM Punk. I mean, the only other person that could win that is Cody Rhodes. Yes. Maybe even Gunther. But it's got to be Punk. I mean, that had to be one of the bargaining moments right there. And you do that, he goes to WrestleMania. You know he'll go after Seth Rollins. He's not going to go after Roman. And he could, but in all honesty, it's got to be Seth. I mean, the match is literally right there. And the promo segment that they had on Monday Night Raw some time ago, yowza. That's all I can say on that. So, if it's not leading up to Punk and Rollins, I don't know what it is. So, but Punk returning, no doubt about it. That's hands down the moment of the year, without a doubt. Tag team of the year is next up, and it's a tough one, but I got to go with FTR. I mean, FTR winning the AEW World Tag Team Championship in a last chance match against the Guns in early April. They held the titles for a number of months, for a good 6 or 7 months or so, before dropping them to Ricky Starks and Big Bill on an episode of AEW Collision. But they had some great matches along the way. They had a great run with the AEW World Tag Team Championships. Honorable mention, you can definitely throw in Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. You can definitely throw their hat into the ring as well, especially after their emotional title win at WrestleMania when they beat the Usos, ending their record reign of 622 days. And of course, you could also make a consideration for ABC in Impact Wrestling, Ace Austin and Chris Bay. I mean, they should also be an honorable mention as well, because they had a lot of success in Impact, and they had a great run with the Impact Tag Team Championships. So you can make an argument for them. I mean, you can make an argument for the Creed brothers as well. So many great tag teams, but it's tough. But I got to give a slight edge to FTR on this one. But right behind, I would say Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. You can make an argument for them too. I wouldn't be mad at you if you did. So, but a smidgen of it goes to FTR by a smidge. So, for me, tag team of the year, FTR. Michael Bullock, like I said, a lot of great tag teams, but I got to give a slight edge to FTR on this one.
Yeah, I'm with you. I got to give the slight edge to FTR too, and yeah, you definitely can put Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn in it, but with the run they had with the AEW World Tag Team titles for that 6-7 months they gave us some really good matches along the way. I mean, they got the run that, in all honesty, they should have had when they were the Revival in WWE. But at least Tony Khan is doing things right with these two. So I'm in agreement with you. FTR is my tag team of the year as well.
All right. So let's move on to our next one. Comeback of the year. Now this might be a little bit tough because I didn't really recall anybody coming back from. Well, actually, you know what? There can only be one when it comes to comeback of the year. Michael Bullock, I don't know if you know who that is, but I know who it is on my end. Do you know who it is on your end?
Yeah, I really don't know. I mean, unless you know.
I do. Randy Orton. Let's not forget.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. So
it's got to be.
I mean, there were. I mean, so many other ones I could think of, but the thing is, yeah, Randy Orton's got to be the comeback of the year, because the thing is, he was gone for a year and a half with some neck injuries and some other injuries that we thought it was going to end his career. Sorry.
That's all right.
But man, I mean, just to see Randy Orton back after where many people thought his career was over. I mean, and he returns at War Games, and of course, now of course he's on SmackDown, and he's going to be in that triple threat to see who's going to be next in line to challenge the Tribal Chief at the Royal Rumble. I think we all know who's going to win that one.
Randy Orton.
It has to be Randy Orton, because he's got to be the guy to be next in line to challenge the Tribal Chief, because who was the one who took him out?
Roman and the Bloodline.
Yeah, and Randy Orton's been waiting 18 months to finally get this guy one-on-one. So Randy Orton's the comeback of the year for me.
Ditto. It's Randy Orton. I mean, I couldn't really think of anybody else it could have been. I mean, we didn't really hear of any, great comebacks from injury. But Randy Orton, I mean, here's a guy who we all thought his career was over. But then he finally made his return. last month at Survivor Series War Games as part of that men's War Games team with Cody Rhodes, Sami Zayn, Jey Uso, and Seth freaking Rollins, and they took it. They knocked off the Judgment Day and Drew McIntyre in that match, and Randy Orton with that sick RKO on JD McDonough that was the beginning of the end for the Judgment Day and Drew McIntyre. Cody Rhodes, of course, winning it with the Crossroads at the end. Randy Orton letting Cody Rhodes have the moment there, which was awesome of him to do. And now the Viper is back. Daddy's back. Daddy's home, and business is about to pick up. And yes, Bullock alluded to it. January 5th, next Friday night, on the New Year's Revolution edition of Friday Night SmackDown, the first of 2024, in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. Randy Orton versus AJ Styles versus LA Knight. Triple threat match. Winner of that match will challenge Roman Reigns for the undisputed Universal Championship at the Royal Rumble at Tropicana Field. And that's all there is to say on that. So it is most definitely Randy Orton when it comes to the comeback of the year. No doubt about that. The next week, these next 4 awards, we got 4 more awards left, and these next 4 are the 4 big ones. And we started with pay-per-view, premium live event of the year, whatever you want to call it, but we're old school. We're calling it pay-per-view of the year. And there were so many great ones. Let's not kid ourselves. WWE, you had night 1 of WrestleMania 39. You had Backlash in Puerto Rico. You had Money in the Bank in London. Just to name a few. Survivor Series, obviously. SummerSlam, you can make an argument for that. AEW had some great shows. Of course, their 2 standout shows, without a doubt. The Forbidden Door 2 in Toronto in June. And, of course, All In at Wembley. And it's tough because there's a lot of great ones. You can make an argument for so many of them. But if I'm going to be honest with you, I got to give it to AEW's All In. I got to go with All In. Wembley Stadium. I mean, the atmosphere. I didn't see one bad match on that card. I mean, the atmosphere was unreal. 81,000 plus fans. The biggest show, the biggest pay-per-view event in AEW history. And they hit a home run. There is no question about that. And like I said, there are so many great pay-per-views this year, record-setting pay-per-views. But there was just something about All In for me. I thought All In was the best pay-per-view event of the year. And MJF and Adam Cole, the headliner. Of course, you had a Stadium Stampede match. You also had Saraya winning the women's title in her home country in front of her family and her friends. And you also had Will Ospreay and Chris Jericho, and just so many incredible matches on that night. And that was an amazing atmosphere. And so I have to give it to All In. Michael Bullock, I don't know about you, but I think All In was, for me, a slight edge to All In. But if you have another pay-per-view in mind, I certainly wouldn't be mad at you if you did.
Yeah, All In, I think, has got to be the pay-per-view of the year. I mean, like you said, there wasn't one bad match. I mean, the crowd was just definitely into it. I mean, especially when their homegirl, Saraya, completed her comeback and won the AEW Women's World Title. I mean,
honorable mention. That's an honorable mention for comeback right there too.
Yeah, that's right. That's another candidate there. So, I mean, Will Ospreay, Chris Jericho. I mean, so many good matches there. There wasn't even one bad match. So, I'm with you, Florio. It's All In.
All right, Michael Bullock. Next up, match of the year. What's the match of the year for 2023?
Oh my gosh! I mean, there were so many good ones. I mean, it's
Well,
it's tough
I
to.
can help out a little bit. I mean, WWE
Mhm.
recently did something on social media on their YouTube, and they did this big tournament, and their match of the year, according to the voters, was Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes from WrestleMania. And NXT, of course, you had it was Ilya Dragunov and Carmelo Hayes from the No Mercy. Um, I mean, those were just a couple. Of course, we can't forget about the match on Collision with FTR and Jay White and Juice Robinson. That 2 out of 3 falls match. The death match with Hangman Adam Page and Swerve Strickland, and
Yeah.
so
Well, for
I
me,
know there's a lot, and
out of
I
out of
know how
that,
tough this is.
out of that, I don't know. So many people are. I don't know if there are going to be people who will agree with me on it, but I don't care. I got to go with Roman and Cody from night 2 of WrestleMania. I mean, the crowd was just so. They were just so into it. Especially, they were just so behind Cody Rhodes. I mean, so many Shakespearean drama during this match. We kept thinking, oh, is it finally going to happen? Is it finally going to happen? I mean, yes, there was a little chicanery, but the overall, the way the crowd was just into it. I mean, I'm going to say by just a slim margin, and I know there's going to be some disagreements, but I don't care. It's my opinion. I'm
Exactly.
going with Roman and Cody from WrestleMania Night 2.
I'm certainly not mad at that at all, Michael Bullock. I mean, that most certainly deserves to be in the running, no question about it. And
And like you said,
you have every.
there's just so many there's
I
just so
know,
many good ones. I mean, it's
I know,
impossible to pick one over the other,
I know. Is exactly. I mean, the
and that's why.
San Juan Street Fight, Bad Bunny and Damian Priest. That deserves a mention. Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens versus the Usos, Rhea Ripley and Charlotte Flair. I mean, the War Games matches. I mean, just so many, and it's hard to pick just one.
Yeah, and if we were doing like a top 10 or a top 20, that would be easy.
Yeah, yeah, no doubt
But to
about that.
only do but to
If we were
only do
going back to
one,
power rankings,
if but to only do one, I think it's unfair.
it is. It absolutely is. But we don't have that kind of time, unfortunately. But
Yeah, unfortunately.
yeah, so
Yes. So go ahead and reveal yours.
yep. You definitely made a great argument, and I'm certainly not mad at that choice. It was an amazing match, and it was like I said, WWE did this big thing on YouTube where they had this tournament where fans voted on match by match which they felt was the best, and I participated in that a little bit, and the overall winner ended up being Roman Reigns versus Cody Rhodes from WrestleMania. So Michael Bullock is not entirely in the wrong on that one. He has every right to choose that as his match of the year. And the only way I would have agreed with you, Bullock, was if Cody had finished the story. If Cody had finished the story and won the titles like he was supposed to and should have, then and only then I would have agreed with you on that. But this may end up being our only disagreement of the night. My match of the year, I got to go with the AEW Collision, July 15th, FTR versus Jay White and Juice Robinson. The 2 out of 3 falls, almost 1 hour marathon for the AEW World Tag Team Championships. And how fitting it was that took place at the Saddle Dome in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, the home of Bret the Hitman Hart. And that's a match that I know Bret the Hitman Hart would have been proud of right there. And 5-star classic, Shakespearean drama, one of the greatest TV matches I've ever seen. And just the near falls, the crowd, commentary. I mean, it had everything you could want in a match. And so for me, I have to go with FTR versus Jay White and Juice Robinson from the July 15th AEW Collision as my match of the year for 2023, even though there's a cornucopia of candidates, including Michael Bullock's choice of Roman and Cody from WrestleMania, which was voted as WWE's match of the year. So I will give you that. But the only way I would have agreed is if Cody had finished the story. I absolutely hated the ending, but it is what it is. So that's that. Female Wrestler of the Year can only be one, and that's Rhea Ripley. Rhea Ripley, from start to finish, absolutely dominated 2023. Starting by winning the Women's Royal Rumble match from the number one position, mind you, and setting a new longevity record by lasting 1 hour and 1 minute plus, and going wire to wire and winning the Women's Royal Rumble match, and then going on to WrestleMania and defeating Charlotte Flair for the SmackDown Women's Championship in what I consider the greatest women's match in WrestleMania history. The 5-star that she had with Charlotte on that night, which you also could have made an argument for match of the year. I absolutely would not have been mad at you if anybody had gone with that. And then just, title defense after title defense after title defense after title defense. Of course, the SmackDown Women's Championship rechristened as the Women's World Championship, exclusive to Monday Night Raw. And she's been champion ever since. And she just absolutely dominated from start to finish. The only one who really came close to her this year, if I'm going to be honest with you, was Trinity, a.k.a. Naomi. Because ever since she got to Impact Wrestling, she has absolutely dominated. She won the Impact Knockouts Championship from the virtuosa Deonna Purrazzo. And she's ran with that ever since. And she's got a very tough title defense coming up at the TNA Hard to Kill pay-per-view January 13, when she defends against the women's against Jordynne Grace. Jordynne Grace called her shot, and she wants. Moose actually has the Feaster fired. I just remember Jordynne Grace won the Call Your Shot, and Jordynne called her shot. She wants Trinity for that Knockouts Championship, and she'll get it at Hard to Kill. So get into that in a couple weeks. But when it comes to the Female Wrestler of the Year for 2023, it is not even close. It's Mommy. It's Rhea Ripley. So Michael Bullock, I know this is a clear, unanimous agreement. Who else in the world of women's wrestling came even close to having the success that Mommy did? Find me somebody.
No one.
I rest my case.
It's Mommy. It was Mommy's year. Rhea Ripley. I mean, like you said, starting off with winning the Women's Royal Rumble from the number one spot, going on to defeat Charlotte Flair in the greatest women's match in WrestleMania history, getting her revenge from WrestleMania 36, winning the SmackDown Women's title, then becoming the Women's World title. And she had successful title defense, and she turned back so many people. So many women. How is she going to start off 2024? Obviously with a title defense against Ivy Nile, and I'm going to go on the record. I think Rhea's defending that. Successfully defending that title.
Agreed.
But I got a funny feeling that she's going to face her biggest challenge come WrestleMania.
Yes.
And you want to know who I think it is? If you're thinking the same thing.
The Man?
Yes. Because the thing is, they've been teasing it. I think it was sometime this year. There was a backstage thing with her and they had some run-ins too.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking they got to be teasing this for some time. And I think there's no other place they can do it than WrestleMania.
Exactly.
And then I'm going to go on the record of saying this. I think Becky's going to be the one to end the reign of Mommy.
Very possible.
I mean, I could be wrong, but we'll have to wait and see.
Exactly.
But yeah, 2023 was the year of Mommy, Rhea Ripley. Even though right now I don't want to invite her over for Christmas after what she did to that tree on Monday Night Raw.
Yeah, no doubt about that. All right, we have one last award, and Michael Bullock, Male Wrestler of the Year. We can tell you who it's not. It's not going to be Roman Reigns. That's for damn sure. So it's got to
Well,
be.
the only way we would say it, Florio, is if Paul Heyman had him and not only him but Jimmy and Solo right behind us.
Yeah.
If that happened, then we perhaps we would say, okay, we're going with the tribal chief. But since they're not here, no, we're not going to do it. We're not going to acknowledge you. So, but then again, there's so many other good ones here, but I'm going to go with Cody Rhodes. I mean, with everything the guy went through in 2023, I mean, he had so many good matches in his time with WWE in 2023. I mean, winning the Men's Royal Rumble, a 5-star caliber match against a 5-star match against Roman at WrestleMania, even though he didn't finish the story. The trilogy of matches he had with Brock Lesnar. I mean, also being involved in the men's War Games match at Survivor Series. I mean, something that probably is near and dear to him, knowing that his father was involved in some of the War Games matches. So, for me, and this could be another disagreement here, but I'm going with the American Nightmare as my superstar of the year.
A good choice, Michael Bullock. I'm certainly not mad at that argument. I mean, he had a great year. The only way I would have agreed with you is if he had finished the story at WrestleMania. If he had won the title right then and there, then I would have agreed with you wholeheartedly. No doubt about it.
Just like the same case with the match of the year.
Right. I mean, to me, it's between two guys. MJF from AEW and Gunther from WWE. I mean, you can also make an argument for Seth freaking Rollins. You can make an argument for him based on the great year that he had. He certainly deserves to be in the running. You can also make an argument for Impact Wrestling's Alex Shelley. I mean, Alex Shelley deserves to be in that conversation. No question about it. And like I said, MJF definitely deserves to be in the running. After the great year, I mean, holding the AEW World Heavyweight Championship for nearly the entire calendar year of 2023, had an incredible match, had a lot of incredible matches, from the Iron Man match with Danielson at Revolution and so many others. But I'm going to be honest with you, when it comes to Male Wrestler of the Year, for me, I got to go with Gunther. I mean, Gunther is my choice. I mean, what a year for Gunther. I mean, holding the Intercontinental Heavyweight Championship for the entire year, the record-setting performance he had in the Men's Royal Rumble match, even though he didn't win it, setting a new longevity record over an hour and 11 minutes and change in that match before being eliminated by Cody Rhodes at the end. The incredible matches that he had this year, the triple threat with Sheamus and Drew McIntyre at WrestleMania, the matches against the likes of Tommaso Ciampa, of course, Chad Gable on that Labor Day edition of Monday Night Raw. Of course, most recently, that incredible match on Raw against The Miz. I mean, the best match of Miz's career, no question about that. And he's the next big thing. There is no question about it. And I wouldn't be surprised if sometime next year, Gunther becomes a world champion. I got a feeling Gunther will become either the world heavyweight champion or maybe even the undisputed universal champion down the road. But for me, my Male Wrestler of the Year the Ring General Gunta. So that's who I'm going with. That's my story. I'm sticking to it. So with that being said, we move on now to our preview of the final pay-per-view event of 2023. It is AEW World's End. AEW World's End, which will take place this Saturday night on the Nassau Coliseum in Long Island, New York, on pay-per-view. And of course, it will also be available on Bleacher Report and Fight TV and internationally. This year, the AEW pay-per-view schedule has been in full swing since its inception. AEW has only held a few major shows a year, but they have now increased to almost one a month. This trend will continue with the final show of the year, World's End, at the Nassau Coliseum in Long Island, New York. And MJF, AEW's resident Long Islander, will headline the show by defending the World Heavyweight Championship against Samoa Joe. Christian Cage accepted Adam Copeland's challenge for a no disqualification match for his TNT Championship. And World's End will also have the climax of the inaugural AEW Continental Classic, with the final match going down at the pay-per-view. The winner will be crowned the first ever AEW Triple Crown champion by virtue of winning the new AEW Continental Championship, the Ring of Honor World Championship, and the Strong Openweight Championship from New Japan. So with that being said, let's start it off. We have two pre-show matches, and we're not going to really get into that. Hook will be defending the FTW Championship in an FTW Rules match against Wheeler Yuta, and there's also going to be a 20-man battle royale for a future TNT Championship match. So that is that. So with all that being said, let's get into of course, several new matches were added, but let's get into this first one here. An 8-man tag team matchup. Chris Jericho, Darby Allin, Sammy Guevara, and Sting versus the Don Callis family, Kyle Fletcher and Powerhouse Hobbs, along with AEW World Tag Team Champions Big Bill and Ricky Starks. 9 times out of 10, the babyface team usually wins these matches, so I'm going to go with Jericho, Darby, Guevara, and Sting to win this match. So not much more to say. Michael Bullock, who you got?
Yeah, I'm going with the team of Chris Jericho, Sammy Guevara, Sting, and Darby Allin to win this one. So yeah, so there's nothing more to say. Let's move on to the next match.
And the next match, it will be another match that was added tonight: Miro versus Andrade El Idolo. Who you got here?
Yeah, I mean, Miro's been waiting to get on his hands on his hot wife's client. So, man, I gotta go with Miro. I think he's gonna get his. But I don't know why. I mean, I got a funny feeling also that this could end with Andrade maybe winning by disqualification because Miro's so hot. He definitely wants to. He wants to destroy Andrade more than win a match. So I'm gonna say Miro, but part of me also thinks Andrade's gonna win by disqualification. So it's yours, Florio.
Yeah. That could happen also, but for right now, I wouldn't be surprised if Andrade steals it because of CJ Perry, alias Lana. I wouldn't be surprised if that happens, but I'm going to take a chance and say Miro gets it, but we'll wait and see on that one. Another new match that was added tonight: Keith Lee will go one-on-one with Swerve Strickland. it's got to be Swerve. I mean, it's got to be Swerve. I mean, yes, Swerve came up short in the Continental Classic finale tonight. John Moxley winning that incredible match, which that match stole the show tonight, no doubt about that. If you saw Dynamite tonight, but right now, Swerve's more over right now. I mean, no disrespect to Keith Lee. I mean, he's had a great career, but at the end of the day, you got to go with the hot hand right now, and that is Swerve Strickland. So I got Swerve Strickland winning this match. Michael Bullock, your thoughts? Battle of former partners and former tag team champions.
Yeah, and I'm sure, like I said, Keith Lee's been wanting to get his hands on Swerve because of that, but Swerve Strickland is so over right now. So I'm with you. I'm going to go with Swerve Strickland too, and maybe if he wins, I might do the dance that his manager does.
Prince Nana.
Yep.
I'd love to see that. But anyways, let's continue on here. Just want to get this set up correctly. All right, I think now we're getting into the big matches here. And next up, it will be the match for the TBS Championship. Julia Hart defending against Abaddon. So, Bullock, who you got?
Yeah, I mean, I think this should be a really good match here. I mean, Abaddon is definitely gonna give Julia Hart some fits here, but I think at the end of the day, Julia Hart's gonna come out still the TBS champion. So, winner and still TBS champion Julia Hart. It's yours, Florio.
Julia Hart won the TBS championship at Full Gear by defeating Chris Statlander and Sky Blue in a three-way match. She last defended the title on the November 29th episode of Dynamite when she defeated Emi Sakura. December 16th on Collision, Hart took issue with a victorious Abaddon. Eventually, Sky Blue would come out and assist Julia Hart with a beatdown on Abaddon, prompted a returning Thunder Rosa to help Abaddon and set up a tag match for last Saturday's Collision. And Thunder Rosa and Abaddon would win that match, but I'll tell you what, Julia Hart heavily favored to win this match and retain her title. There's no reason to think otherwise. Abaddon is not the caliber of wrestler to win the title from a red-hot Julia Hart, but Abaddon is the caliber of wrestler that will put on a solid match and help make Hart look like a dominant champion. So, yeah, there's no doubt about this one. Winner and still TBS champion. It's going to be Julia Hart, no question about it. Then we have the battle for the AEW Women's Championship. The champion, Timeless Toni Storm, defending against Riho. Yeah, there's no doubt about this one. It's Toni Storm. Like Julia Hart, there's no chance that Toni Storm loses the AEW Women's World Title Saturday night. Other than Julia Hart, Toni Storm is the hottest star in the women's division, whether you like her gimmick or not. These two wrestlers are head and shoulders above the rest of the women's roster. It's nice to see Rio back in AEW. The inaugural women's champ brings credibility to the division, along with a reputation for putting on strong bouts. Unfortunately, she's nothing more than a speed bump in Storm's title run. The match should be entertaining, but the outcome is a lock. Toni Storm will retain the AEW Women's World Championship. So the winner and still AEW Women's Champion, Timeless Toni Storm. Michael Bullock, your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm with you here. I got to go with Timeless Toni Storm to retain the AEW Women's World title here. I mean, look, whether you like the gimmick or not, she's just so over with this gimmick. So to me, winner and still AEW Women's World Champion, Timeless Toni Storm. Let's move on.
And now we got the three huge main events right here. First, no disqualification match for the AEW TNT Championship. The champion, Christian Cage, defending against Adam Copeland. A return match from the match they had a few weeks ago in Montreal. So, Michael Bullock, I know this is the match you're going to have the most vested interest in. Who you got?
And especially after what happened tonight. I mean...
Oh, yeah.
I mean, what did that remind you of, Florio? When you had parts of the locker room had to break these two up.
Well, I'll be honest with you. You put me on the spot there. I honestly don't know. What was it supposed to remind me of?
Oh, let's just say the greatest pull apart brawl in the history
Oh
of.
yeah. Oh yes, Monday Night Raw, July of 2015. Brock Lesnar and The Undertaker in Kansas City. I'll never forget it.
Yeah, and especially when they went to the back where it continued. I mean, it had a feeling of it. So, but yeah, this is. I mean, just think. One time, Christian Cage and Adam Copeland were not only best friends, but they were like brothers. But ever since Christian Cage's obsession with the TNT title, he's put Adam Copeland's friendship out the door. And yeah, I mean, what he's done. I mean, first with Nick Wayne, and then what we saw last week was utterly disgusting with Nick Wayne's mom aligning with Christian Cage. I mean, why? Why? After all the heinous and disgusting things he said about you, Shayna, now you have to align yourself with this jerk? And I'm being nice with saying that word. There are some other things I could
Yes.
say,
Family
but
showboat.
but because it's a family show, I have to restrain myself from it.
If we were on the other channel, you'd get away with it, but not here.
Yeah, if we were on MF's channel, I would say some other things, especially to Shayna Wayne, but because it's a family show, I'm gonna have to refrain myself from it. So, but you know where I stand with it. So
I do, and I'm right there with you.
yeah, so it's a tough one to call, especially after what happened the first time. But unfortunately, even though it's gonna sicken me to my stomach, I'm gonna go with Christian Cage to retain the title because look, it's no disqualification, and you know Nick Wayne, Shayna Wayne, and don't be surprised if Killswitch returns and maybe does a little something too. So, and Christian will probably do something disgusting too that'll make me want to get a barf bag and throw up. So, even though I probably feel like getting one right now after what I just said. So, even though I hate to say it, but winner and still TNT champion Christian Cage, it's yours, Florio.
A few weeks ago, Christian Cage defeated Adam Copeland in Montreal on the December 6th episode of Dynamite. Shayna Wayne, the mother of Nick Wayne, came out and helped Christian win by hitting Copeland with the TNT title belt. She's now referred to as the matriarch due to her alignment with Christian and his patriarchy that includes her son Nick Wayne and Luchasaurus, aka Killswitch. You know, there's a small part that hopes. I know there are some people that kind of want to see Christian Cage keep the title and find a way to have Copeland get pinned without losing any further momentum. I mean, from the professional side of things, I love everything Christian has done over the last 6 months. He's the best character in AEW and all of pro wrestling right now, professionally speaking, not personally. But you know what? Bullock, I got to disagree with you on this. I think Adam Copeland is going to win the title here, and he's going to defend it on a weekly basis against some of the top AEW stars that he mentioned when he first arrived. And that's another one. And that's another moment. That's another moment that we could have considered for a moment of the year when
and the thing, I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong with this one, and I hope you're right. So
and we see angry Adam Copeland win the title here.
Yeah.
So, because we all know
This is
angry Adam Copeland, angry Edge.
Yeah, this is the one time that I hope I'm wrong.
I know, and that's why I'm going with Adam Copeland. I'm going with the former Edge to walk out the new TNT champion. So that's just how I feel about it. So, all right, Continental Classic. We have our final. It will be Jon Moxley representing the Gold League versus the winner of the Blue League, Eddie Kingston. Whew. I mean, it's tough. I mean, this one can literally go either way. But considering this event is in New York, I got to go with Eddie. I mean, the way, let's not forget, Eddie Kingston was left for dead. I mean, but he started winning the matches that he. I mean, every match he's had the last 3 or 4 matches, they've all been must win, and he won. He beat his most hated rival, Claudio Castagnoli. Of course, last week on Collision, he defeated Andrade El Idolo to win to get to the semifinal, and then tonight he had to clear the biggest hurdle that he's had to clear yet, defeating a man he had never defeated before, that being the American Dragon, Bryan Danielson. And somehow, tonight on Dynamite, Eddie Kingston finally got that American Dragon alias Monkey off his back. Jon Moxley, hey, he won the Gold League, you know. I mean, he only lost one match, and that was to Jay White a week ago on Dynamite. But he got the payback tonight, defeating Jay White and Swerve Strickland in that 3-way final on Dynamite tonight, which, oh, by the way, that was a damn near 5-star classic that they had tonight. Go out of your way to see it if you haven't already, because they literally, those 3 stole the damn show tonight in Orlando. But yes, it could be another honor for Jon Moxley. And let's not forget, there's history with these two. These two have a friendship. And let's not forget, earlier this year when they were having, problems, who will ever forget when Jon Moxley's wife, Renee Paquette, absolutely was pissed, and to the point where she said, "I'm done." I mean, I haven't forgotten about that moment. I mean, they could very easily, I mean, the safe and logical choice would be Moxley, but considering this event, if this was anywhere other than New York, especially Cincinnati, I would have gone with Jon Moxley to win this. But considering that it's in New York, I'm going to say it. The winner of the inaugural AEW Continental Classic, the Mad Dog, the Mad King, Eddie Kingston. I think he's going to do it. But don't be surprised if Moxley does win. Don't be surprised. I certainly wouldn't be. So I'm taking a chance, and I'm going with Eddie Kingston. Hometown pop, hometown rub. What says you, Bullock?
Yeah, I agree with you. If this was in any other place but New York, I would go with Jon Moxley. But because it is in New York, I'm with you. I got to go with the Mad King, Eddie Kingston, to win the Continental Classic. So nothing more to say. One more match.
The main event, the AEW World Heavyweight Championship, the champion, Maxwell Jacob Friedman, MJF defending against Samoa Joe. Michael Bullock, I think after what we saw tonight, I think Booking 101 is coming into play here.
Yeah, Booking 101 is coming into play after what we saw, where now the Samoa Joe was working with the devil. And after everything that happened, I think this is an easy choice here. The winner and still AEW World Champion, Maxwell Jacob Friedman, MJF. It's yours, Florio.
Absolutely. There's no doubt about it. I mean, as for the match, you have to bet on MJF to retain the title in his hometown of Long Island. I mean, I know there are some who would love to see Joe get a run here, but I don't believe AEW would take the belt off MJF in his hometown unless the devil interferes to help Joe. The only other wrestler that can make the devil storyline a worthy payoff is Adam Cole. It would be a great way for Cole to swerve his supposed best friend in MJF after being on the sideline with a legitimate injury. Nevertheless, we could go down many rabbit holes with this devil story, but take MJF to retain the title. So, winner and still AEW World Heavyweight Champion, it is Maxwell Jacob Friedman, MJF. And we have one other order of business that we're going to get into real quick. Tomorrow night will be the final Thursday night football game of the 2023 season on Amazon Prime Video, their season finale, if you will. And when it comes to our side of the ledger, it's our number 4 game of the week. This game came in at number 4, as it will feature the New York Jets squaring off against the Cleveland Browns from First Energy Stadium in Cleveland, Ohio. Amazon Prime Video, of course, you already know who's working it. For the final time this season, Al Michaels, Kirk Herbstreit, and Kaylee Hartung. The Browns opening up as a 7.5-point favorite. And the series history when it comes to these two teams. Bear with me as it's not really coming up on my end here. So I'm just waiting for this to come up here. But all right, here we go. All right, I'm getting something here. I'll have it. Just give me one moment. It's just taking a little bit to load on my end. I apologize. Okay, I got it now. It's actually tied. Series is tied in the regular season. The regular season series is tied 14-14. Last meeting was last year in Cleveland, and the Jets won that game, a wild game, 31-30. Jets have won the last two meetings against the Browns. Jets won last year, 31-30. The Browns last won in Cleveland against the Jets in 2018. That was a 21-17 final. Overall, they last beat the Jets in 2019. They won in New York 23-3. So there is that. So of course, when it comes down to it, we all know that the Jets have nothing to play for. The Jets, of course, out of the playoff race. Cleveland Browns, however, I mean, the Cleveland Browns are well in position to make the playoffs after that impressive win in Houston on Christmas Eve. Sunday, went into Houston and had their way with the Texans. And they are literally in the driver's seat when it comes to playoffs here. Browns are 5-0 against the spread as a home favorite this season, and they still have an outside chance at the AFC North Division title. The Browns lead the league in turnovers, but Cleveland is even in turnover margin since Joe Flacco took over as starting quarterback. The Jets are -7 the last 4 weeks. If the line moves up before kickoff, take the value in New York on that one. But at the end of the day here, you got to go with the Cleveland Browns here. I mean, they're just the hot hand right now, and I would not at all be surprised if the Browns picked up the win here. I mean, the Jets had a nice win against Washington. They nearly gave it away, but they still found a way to win. Joe Flacco playing like his Ravens Super Bowl MVP form from 11 years ago, only with more prolific numbers for the team in Cleveland instead of the team from Cleveland. It's also a revenge game against the team that should have kept him as a veteran backup for this year. This game throws back to the first ever Monday Night Football game, only on a Thursday night. The Browns are hot, and their defense goes back to domination at home, while the Jets will have little offensive success. I got the Cleveland Browns winning this game. My final score, 23-10. Cleveland defeats the Jets. Take us home, Bullock. Bullock, are you there?
Yeah, I was just trying to hit the button here. So, yeah, I'm with you. I mean, look, Jets are out of the playoffs. I mean, the Browns, they're hot right now. I mean, like you said, Joe Flacco, he's starting to play like his days as a Baltimore Raven, especially the year they went to the Super Bowl and won it. So, and especially after that humongous performance by Amari Cooper on Sunday. I mean, that was one of the. I mean, if you had Amari Cooper as on your fantasy team, you really struck it really good.
51.5 points. Oh, by the way.
Yeah. So I expect that to continue, especially with what they do defensively. So I'm with you. I'm going with the Cleveland Browns to win. So let's call it a night.
And we will indeed do just that. That will put the bow on our Talking Wrestling TXN 2023 Year in Review special. We want to thank you all so very much for tuning in, not just tonight, but all year long when it comes to our Talking Wrestling TXN family of shows, whether it was Ridiculously Raw, Wednesday Night Madness, the Cerebral Smack Talk, our pay-per-view previews, reviews, and the whole 9 yards. Very much appreciate your love and support all these years. And to this day, we can't do it without you all. Very much appreciate your love and support all these years. Tomorrow night, 10:30, we do it all again. Only this time, we go from the world of professional wrestling to the world of sports, as it will be our TXN Sports World 2023 Year in Review special. Relive our standout moments in the world of sports in 2023. And we will also preview the New Year's 6 college football bowl games, headlined, of course, by the two huge matchups in the college football playoff. And time permitting, we will also have a recap of the game between the New York Jets and the Cleveland Browns. We'll get a brief recap in time permitting, of course. So that will be tomorrow. And then Friday night, 10:30, once again here, it will be the Week 17 edition of TXN Sports World NFL Friday. Preview all the games of Week 17, including a huge double main event. The Detroit Lions against the Dallas Cowboys and the Miami Dolphins versus the Baltimore Ravens. So many other exciting games on tap as well, but those are the two big ones right there. So that'll be on Friday night. And then we're off for the weekend. And then after that, we'll be back on Tuesday night for a special Tuesday night edition of Ridiculously Raw, where we will recap the AEW World's End pay-per-view and the first Monday Night Raw 2024, day one. And that all goes down on a special Tuesday night edition of Ridiculously Raw. And then Wednesday, of course, we got Wednesday Night Madness, NXT New Year's Evil, and the first AEW Dynamite of 2024. It's all about NXT and Dynamite the rest of the way. No more Thursday Night Football previews. That won't be until next year, of course. Next September, obviously. And then, of course, the Friday will be NFL Friday, Week 18, and Cerebral Smat Talk and all that. So that's it. So until tomorrow night for our TXN Sports World 2023 Year in Review special, it's Anthony Floyo here for the Phenom Michael Bullock, and of course, in spirit, good old MF Michael Fletcher, and of course, always and forever, the First Lady of Talking Wrestling TXN, the one and only Twisted Angel, Dee Woodson. You know the routine, everybody. Thumbs up. Talk to you later. Yeah. Throw it up. Be good to each other. Have a blessed Thursday. And until tomorrow night, for the TXN Sports World 2023 Year in Review special, you've been watching the Talking Wrestling TXN 2023 Year in Review special right here on the Tone 25 on YouTube and Streamy.com. And as I always say, no matter what anyone tells you beyond anything else, wrestling is indeed actually real. For everybody who has been a part of this one, for now, Anthony Floyo, so long, bye everybody, bye.